The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was in absolute chaos. And by chaos, I mean the kind that makes a supernova look like a peaceful afternoon picnic. Order! Order in the chamber! High Counselor Xena Starweaver's voice boomed through the magnificent hall, her crystalline form pulsing with stressed-out rainbow colors. Under different circumstances, I might have found it amusing if I weren't too busy calculating how many parsecs I'd need to put between myself and the impending disaster. Oh, pardon me. I should introduce myself. I'm Ambassador Klex Brightheart, representing the Luminary Confederation and currently watching the most powerful beings in the galaxy collectively lose their minds. Why, you ask? Because someone had done the one thing we'd all been warned never, ever to do. They killed a human. Not just any human either. They had to go and kill Captain Amanda Stone of the Earth science vessel Curiosity. The same Amanda Stone who had recently developed a cure for the Relian plague. The same Amanda Stone who had 3 kids waiting for her back on Mars Colony. The same Amanda Stone who was, by all accounts, one of the kindest representatives of her species. The Crimson Nebula pirates claim it was an accident, squeaked Representative Blip from the Silicon Consciousness, their holographic form flickering anxiously. They didn't know humans were what? Snapped Ambassador Trill Stardancer of the Celestial Accord, her bioluminescent tentacles writhing in agitation. Weren't the warning beacons we installed across every major trade route clear enough? Do not engage in hostile actions against human vessels. How much simpler could we have made it? I leaned back in my hover seat, watching the diplomatic disaster unfold. The warning beacons had been my idea, actually. Not that anyone was giving me credit for trying to prevent this exact scenario. But here we were, watching the galaxy's most powerful civilizations squabbling like nestlings over the last nutrient pod. Perhaps, came the measured tones of Elder Quantum Thought Pattern 7 of the Machine Collective, we should discuss appropriate responses to the human reaction. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Even the perpetually floating spores of the fungal consciousness stopped their gentle drift. What reaction? Asked someone from the back. I didn't bother turning to look. I was too busy watching High Counselor Starweaver's crystalline form shift to a particularly worrying shade of deep purple. According to our latest reports, she said, her voice unnaturally calm, every human colony in the galaxy has gone silent. Every trade route they maintained has been suspended. Every diplomatic channel has been closed except for one message. The central hologram activated, displaying a simple text communication in the human's primitive binary language. Diplomatic relations temporarily suspended pending proportional response to acts of piracy against Earth citizens. Normal operations will resume once justice has been served. Proportional response? Chirped a representative from the Avon Leagues. What does that mean? I couldn't help myself. I laughed. Every eye, optical sensor, and sensory appendage in the chamber turned toward me. Oh, you poor, sweet summer nebulas, I said, wiping a tear from my primary visual organ. You really don't know much about human history, do you? High Counselor Starweaver's crystal structure chimed ominously. Ambassador Brightheart, if you have relevant information. Relevant? Try crucial. While you've all been trading with humans, marveling at their primitive but charming technology, did any of you bother to study their military history? The blank stares answered that question. I sighed, pulling up my own data display. Humans have a saying, mess with the bull, get the horns. Though in this case, it's more like mess with the species that perfected the art of warfare before they even left their own planet. Another silence, this one heavy with dawning comprehension. Surely they wouldn't begin the fatal mistake. Blip. Want to bet your silicon processors on that? I asked. Because the last time someone killed a human diplomat, oh wait, this is the first time. Because everyone else was smart enough to read the warning labels. As if on cue, the chamber's emergency alerts began blaring. The central hologram shifted to a tactical display, showing a massive fleet of ships emerging from Earth space. Ships that looked nothing like the peaceful vessels we were used to seeing from humans. Ships that made our most advanced warships look like children's toys. Well, I said, settling back to watch the show, I hope those pirates enjoyed their little moment of victory. Because they're about to learn why humans put warning labels on everything. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos again. But this time, not even High Counselor Starweaver tried to restore order. We all just sat there, watching as humanity prepared to teach the galaxy the lesson about consequences. And I just smiled, knowing I had the best seat in the house for what promised to be the most entertaining diplomatic crisis in recent Galacticas. Let me take you back to the moment everything went wrong. Not that I was there personally, I value my molecular structure far too much for that kind of excitement. But thanks to the black box recordings recovered from the Curiosity, we all got to watch this disaster unfold in stunning clarity. The Crimson Nebula Pirates, led by the notoriously arrogant Captain Rax Bloodfong, now there's a name that tries too hard, had been tracking the Curiosity for 3 standard cycles. They watched as the research vessel collected samples from the Proxima sector, conducted its quaint little experiments, and generally went about its business with what Rax later described as adorable primitive efficiency. The attack itself was textbook piracy if your textbook was written by an overconfident fool. The pirates' flagship, the Eternal Shadow, again with the names dropped out of hyperspace alongside 2 support vessels surrounding the Curiosity like predators cornering prey. Attention, Earth vessel, Rax had broadcast, his mandibles clicking with barely contained glee. This is Captain Rax Bloodfong of the Crimson Nebula Fleet. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with unfortunate consequences. The response from the Curiosity was typically human, direct, professional, and in hindsight, far more patient than the pirates deserved. "This is Captain Amanda Stone of the Earth science vessel Curiosity," came the calm reply. "We are a research vessel operating under Article 7 of the Galactic Peace Accord. We have minimal valuable cargo and a crew of scientists. I suggest you reconsider your actions." The pirates, demonstrating all the wisdom of a meteor heading toward a black hole, laughed. "Minimal valuable cargo?" Rax's second in command, Vix Shadowstrike, sneered. "That's not what our scans show, Captain Stone. Those medical supplies you're carrying? They'll fetch a pretty price on the black market." "Those medical supplies? The cure for the Rillian plague." Stone's voice hardened. "Those supplies are needed for dying children. This is your final warning. Withdraw your vessels." The pirates responded by opening fire. It was the last mistake they ever made. And tell Earth, tell them to make it count. Rax, watching through Vic's helmet feed, finally realized his mistake. Not that it mattered. The Curiosity's distress beacon had been broadcasting since the first shot was fired, its quantum entanglement communicator already transmitting everything to Earth Command. The pirates retreated, congratulating themselves on acquiring a valuable prize while dismissing the loss of life as unfortunate but necessary. They even had the audacity to send a message to the Galactic Council claiming the human vessel had aggressively resisted a standard inspection. You know what the truly tragic part is? If they had just taken 10 minutes to research human history, they might have survived. They might have learned about concepts like proportional response or never leave an enemy behind. They might have discovered why humans put warning labels on everything from their coffee cups to their starships. But they didn't. They saw what they wanted to see, a primitive species in a basic research vessel. They never questioned why such a species had spread across the galaxy so quickly, nor wondered why every major power in the galaxy had non-aggression pacts with Earth. And now? Now they were about to learn what happens when you mistake humanity's patience for weakness, when you confuse their willingness to talk for an inability to fight. When you kill one of their own and think you can simply walk away. Humans have a saying, don't poke the sleeping bear. The Crimson Nebula pirates didn't just poke the bear, they killed one of its cubs. And now? Now the bear is awake. And it's coming for them. The silence before the storm. Have you ever watched a supernova about to happen? That perfect moment when everything goes quiet before the star tears itself apart? That's what it felt like in the days following Captain Stone's death, a silence so complete, so absolute, it made your nerve endings tingle with anticipation. The first sign came from Nova Era, Earth's largest off-world colony. Their regular shipments of quantum processors? Cancelled. The weekly entertainment broadcasts? Terminated. The bustling trade ports, usually packed with thousands of alien merchants? Cleared out in less than a solar day. Routine maintenance, their automated response systems claimed. Right. And I'm a photosynthesizing Plutonian. Next came Mars Colony. Their famous universities, which had been teaching advanced human medical techniques to alien students, suddenly announced an extended holiday. All non-human personnel were politely but firmly escorted to the nearest transport hubs. The colony's massive dome shields, previously transparent, turned opaque. Environmental systems upgrade was the official explanation. Even Luna Base, humanity's first off-world settlement, went dark. The massive tourist attractions that usually drew millions of visitors closed. The diplomatic offices relocated to temporary facilities that somehow nobody could quite find. I watched from my office in the Galactic Council's Tower of Harmony as the reports flooded in. Trade vessels reported human ships quietly departing their regular routes. Monitoring stations noted increased activity around Earth's military installations. The humans were moving pieces on the board, but nobody could see the full picture. "They're running scared," suggested diplomat Zorax of the Silicon Consciousness during one of our emergency sessions. "Withdrawing to protect themselves from further attacks." I had to bite my secondary mandible to keep from laughing. Tell me, esteemed colleague, when you scan human entertainment broadcasts, do you ever watch their nature documentaries? Their what? You know, those fascinating videos where they study their planet's predators. There's this wonderful creature called a tiger. When it hunts, it doesn't charge in roaring. It goes quiet. It goes still. And then. The implications made Zorax's crystalline structure vibrate with discomfort. Our long-range sensors started picking up unusual energy signatures from the Sol system, the kind that suggested large-scale fleet movements. But every time we sent diplomatic inquiries, we received the same polite, pre-recorded message. "Earth thanks you for your concern. Normal operations will resume once current security matters are resolved." Then came the really strange part. Human civilians, usually found throughout the galaxy as traders, teachers, and tourists, began quietly booking passage back to Earth-controlled space. Not all at once, mind you. That would have been too obvious. Just a steady trickle, like water flowing uphill before a tsunami. The Merchants Guild reported that humans were liquidating their off-world assets at suspiciously reasonable prices. Academic institutions noted that human researchers were submitting their final papers and concluding their experiments ahead of schedule. Entertainment venues reported that human performers were canceling their upcoming shows, citing family emergencies. "Perhaps we should send a delegation," suggested Ambassador Trill Stardancer during one particularly tense council session. "Show our support for their loss." "Oh yes," I replied, watching the latest sensor readings from Earth's military shipyards. "I'm sure they'd love a bunch of diplomats dropping by right now, just like how a plasma storm loves a radiation leak." The Galactic Council, in its infinite wisdom, decided to wait and see. After all, what could one species do? Humans were still considered relatively new to the galactic stage. Their technology, while impressive in some areas, was thought to be centuries behind the major powers. That's when our deep space monitors picked up something interesting. The humans' orbital shipyards, previously used for building research vessels and cargo ships, had gone into overdrive. Power consumption had tripled. Raw material shipments had quadrupled. And the energy signatures? Well, let's just say they weren't building more science vessels. "How are they doing this so quickly?" demanded High Counselor Starweaver during an emergency briefing. "Their industrial capacity was never." "Never what?" I interrupted. Never measured? Never accurately assessed? Did anyone ever actually verify what the humans were capable of? Or did we all just assume that because they were polite, because they focused on trade and research, they couldn't build warships? The silence that followed was deafening. And through it all, the Crimson Nebula pirates continued their operations, boasting about their victory over the primitive human vessel. They even started advertising the stolen medical supplies, apparently unaware or unconcerned about the storm they had awakened. But I knew. I had studied human history. I had read about their wars, their strategies, their capacity for both mercy and ruthless efficiency. This silence wasn't the quiet of fear. This was the quiet of purpose, of preparation, of a species that had perfected the art of war long before they reached the stars. The humans weren't retreating. They were positioning their pieces. They weren't hiding. They were hunting. And soon, very soon, the galaxy was going to learn why every human vehicle, every human product, every human installation came with those famous warning labels. As I sat in my office, watching another group of human civilians quietly board a transport back to Earth space, I couldn't help but smile. The storm was coming. And when it broke, it was going to be spectacular. Our sensors couldn't even begin to categorize it. "That's not possible," whispered Techmaster Prime of the Silicon Consciousness. Their stealth technology was assessed at level 2. This is at least level 8. Funny thing about humans, I mused, watching as more footage poured in. They tend to keep their best toys hidden until they need them. The next few hours were a masterclass in military precision. Right on schedule, at the exact times listed, human ships would appear near pirate installations. Some bases surrendered immediately. Those pirates got to keep their molecules arranged in their preferred configuration. The ones who resisted, well, let's just say the cleanup crews are still trying to figure out what happened to them. But their weapons, protested Ambassador Quantum Thought Pattern 7. The energy readings are off the charts. They're using technology that shouldn't exist. I couldn't help myself. Shouldn't exist, or shouldn't exist in human hands? Because I'm starting to think we made some rather dangerous assumptions about our friends from Earth. The human ground forces were even more impressive. Teams of soldiers in powered armor that made our best combat suits look like leisureware moved with impossible speed. Their weapons cut through the pirates' most advanced shields like they weren't even there. One particular team, led by Commander Blake Rodriguez, became something of a legend within hours. Surveillance footage showed them infiltrating a pirate stronghold on Nebula's edge, a facility that had repelled full military assaults from 3 different species. Time elapsed from insertion to total control, 6 minutes and 23 seconds. "This can't be right," muttered High Counselor Starweaver, her crystalline form flickering with distress. The humans, they were peaceful. They were focused on science and exploration. They were peaceful, I corrected, because they chose to be. Kind of like how a fusion reactor is peaceful until you remove the containment field. Director Napatel of Earth Intelligence made that point crystal clear in her only public statement. For those wondering about our sudden military capability, I should point out that Earth has been at peace not because we couldn't fight, but because we preferred not to. Recent events have necessitated a change in policy. The pirates learned that lesson the hard way. Those who surrendered were treated humanely, processed through proper legal channels, and imprisoned according to galactic law. Those who resisted got to experience firsthand why humans put so many warnings about themselves. By the end of the first day, 30% of the Crimson Nebula's operations had been neutralized. The humans didn't just destroy their targets, they systematically dismantled them. Each strike recovered stolen goods, freed slaves, and secured evidence of other criminal operations. It was like watching a surgeon remove a tumor, precise and methodical. The most terrifying part? The humans were clearly still holding back. Our best analysts estimated they were using maybe 15% of their actual military capacity, just enough to make their point without triggering a wider conflict. But why hide all this? asked a junior diplomat during an emergency session. Why pretend to be less advanced? I looked around the council chamber at all these supposedly superior beings struggling to process what they were seeing. Tell me, esteemed colleagues, if you knew your friendly neighbor had enough firepower to vaporize a small moon, would you have treated them differently? Would you have been so quick to dismiss them as primitive? The silence that followed was broken by another update. The humans had just taken out the pirates' largest shipyard. The facility had been completely surrounded by a field of quantum mines, protected by automated defense systems, and hidden inside an artificial nebula. Total time from attack initiation to facility capture, 8 minutes and 42 seconds. Perhaps, suggested Ambassador Trill Stardanza, her tentacles now a pale shade of terror, we should review our diplomatic protocols regarding Earth. I just smiled. The show was only getting started. It's funny how quickly a galaxy full of supposedly superior beings can change their tune. The emergency session of the council stretched into its third day as report after report confirmed what I had been trying to tell them for years. Humans weren't just another emerging species. They were what my people call a sleeping giant. We've recovered historical data from their public networks, announced Techmaster Prime, their voice modulation unit struggling to maintain composure. Their entire history is fascinating? I suggested, enjoying this far too much. A comprehensive catalog of increasingly creative ways to break things? The holographic display filled with images from human history, military campaigns, tactical innovations, weapons development. Earth's own records freely available to anyone who bothered to look painted a picture that had the council squirming in their seats. Before they even developed powered flight, continued Techmaster Prime, they had weapons that could level cities. Before they reached their moon, they had bombs that could crack continents. And now we know what they've been doing while we were all congratulating ourselves on being so advanced. They didn't stop developing weapons when they reached the stars, I finished. They just got quieter about it. The data kept coming. Those quaint human research vessels? Turns out they could convert to combat configuration in under 3 minutes. Their peaceful trading posts? Hidden military bases with enough firepower to hold off a planetary invasion. Even their civilian ships had weapon systems that made our military vessels look like toys. But they helped us, protested Ambassador Trill Stardanza. They cured diseases, assisted with terraforming, shared their art and culture. Yes, I said, pulling up another data file, just like they helped the pirates understand the concept of proportional response. Speaking of which, the central display showed the latest casualty figures. In just 3 days, the humans had disabled or destroyed 70% of the Crimson Nebula's infrastructure not through overwhelming force or brutal conquest, but through surgical strikes so precise they could take out a pirate base without disturbing the civilian settlement next door. Their targeting systems alone are centuries ahead of our best technology, muttered Quantum Thought Pattern 7. How did we miss this? Because, came a new voice, you saw what you expected to see. Director Napatel's hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. Unlike General Chen's military precision or Commander Rodriguez's battlefield prowess, she carried herself with the calm assurance of someone who had never needed to raise her voice to be heard. Humanity chose peace, she continued, because we learned the hard way that war only brings more war. We developed our military not because we wanted to use it, but because we never wanted to be vulnerable again. You didn't see our weapons because we hoped we'd never need them. The council chamber was silent as her words sank in. These primitives, these newcomers to the galactic stage, had outmaneuvered us all. Not through deception, but through radical honesty, hidden in plain sight. Your warning beacons, High Counselor Starweaver addressed me directly. You knew. I shrugged all 4 shoulders. The humans have a concept called deterrence. The best way to avoid a fight is to make sure everyone knows exactly how bad an idea it would be to start one. Director Patel nodded. And now, thanks to some rather unwise pirates, the galaxy is learning why we take information so seriously. As I watched another human fleet move with lethal precision, I couldn't help but smile. The storm had come. And it was spectacular. The surviving Crimson Nebula pirates did the only thing they could: they ran. They scattered across the galaxy, hiding in asteroid fields, ducking into nebulas, bribing their way into supposedly secure facilities. It didn't help. Target location confirmed, announced Commander Rodriguez in a routine update to the Council. Pirate designations Beta 7 through Beta 12 neutralized. Moving to the next sector. Neutralized? Squeaked Representative Blip. But they were hiding in a quantum-shielded bunker inside a gas giant. Our sensors couldn't even detect them. Rodriguez smiled, the kind of smile that could freeze plasma. Yes, he said. That's what they thought, too. The humans had deployed something they called Hunter-Killer Team, small, elite squads and powered armor that could outmaneuver even our fastest ships. They moved like shadows between the stars, appearing from nowhere and vanishing just as quickly. I reviewed footage from their helmet cams during a classified briefing. The way they breached hulls, bypassed security, and eliminated targets would have been beautiful if it weren't so terrifying. One team, led by Captain Sarah Winters, neutralized an entire pirate cruiser without firing a single shot. They simply walked through the ship's defenses like they weren't even there. How? Demanded Techmaster Prime, voice jittering with static. How are they penetrating our best stealth systems? Oh, that's the fun part, I replied, pulling up newly declassified technical specifications. Remember all those trade agreements where they exchanged sensor technology for our stealth systems? Turns out, they were testing our defenses every single time. The realization hit the Council like a quantum torpedo. For years, the humans had been gathering data on everyone's military capabilities. Not through espionage or theft, but through legitimate trade and technological exchange. They knew exactly how to counter every defense because they'd helped build them. But surely they can't track everything, Ambassador Trillstarter offered weakly. The galaxy is vast. Right on cue, General Chen's hologram flickered to life. Target update: Pirate Lord of Bloodfang located in the dinner sector. Extraction team en route. Estimated time to capture, 17 minutes. Bloodfang had hidden himself in what we thought was the most secure facility in the sector, a private sanctuary owned by one of the galaxy's wealthiest crime lords, protected by cutting-edge technology from a dozen species. The humans took it apart in 16 minutes and 43 seconds. Please note, Commander Rodriguez reported afterward, his tone almost apologetic, we could have completed the operation faster, but we wanted to ensure minimal structural damage to surrounding civilian facilities. And that's when it truly hit us. The humans weren't just winning. They were doing it with one hand tied behind their backs. Every strike, every capture, every mission was executed with surgical precision designed not just to eliminate threats, but to minimize collateral damage. These are just our peacekeeping forces, Director Patel mentioned casually during a debriefing. Standard containment and neutralization protocols. The silence that followed was deafening. If this was their peacekeeping force, what did their actual military look like? No one dared ask. The last major pirate stronghold fell 7 days after the campaign began. The humans breached its quantum-shifted defenses, bypassed its time dilation fields, and disabled its reality anchor generators in under an hour. The pirates didn't even have time to send a distress signal. Target location acquired, reported Captain Winters over the general frequency. Permission to demonstrate new containment protocols? We watched in stunned silence as a single human ship smaller than most luxury yachts simply reached out and folded space. The entire pirate base, along with its defensive fleet, was neatly deposited in a holding area near Earth's military headquarters. Techmaster Prime's voice cracked. They've mastered space folding. Oh no, I corrected, scanning the newly shared technical brief. That's just their transport system. You really don't want to see what their weapons can do. Actually, no, you really don't. Some things are better left to the imagination. With the pirates eliminated, the humans delivered one final lesson in efficiency. Every stolen item was cataloged. Every victim was identified. Every criminal was processed by the book. The humans didn't just win, they followed proper legal procedures while doing it. Captain Amanda Stone's children received personal apologies from the captured pirates, along with full compensation from seized assets. Medical supplies were recovered and delivered to the colonies that needed them. And Earth? They went right back to being helpful neighbors. Their research missions resumed. Their colonies reopened for trade. Their citizens returned to spreading their culture and technology across the stars. The only difference? Now, everyone understood why their ships carried warning labels. The Galactic Council's new policies on human interaction were pointed. Gone were the patronizing regulations about assisting developing species. In their place, a simple, 3-point directive. All warning labels on human vessels, installations, and products are to be taken literally. Any aggressive action against human citizens will be considered an act of war against Earth. Never, ever assume humans are showing you their full capabilities. Isn't this a bit dramatic? Asked a newly appointed diplomat during the final ratification. Poor thing hadn't been around for the excitement. Computer, I said. Display footage from Operation Cleanup, timestamp 37. A hologram flickered to life, showing a single human corvette, a ship smaller than a standard cruiser, casually towing an entire space station through a fold in reality. The diplomat withdrew their objection. Most of the pirates survived, thanks to humanity's irritating insistence on due process. And the galaxy? Oh, it learned. These days, even the most aggressive species give human ships a wide berth. Funny how watching someone fold space like origami can affect diplomatic relations. As for me, I got promoted. Apparently, being the only ambassador who actually read human history made me an expert. The council even created a new position, Special Advisor on Human Affairs. My first piece of advice? When a species puts warning labels on their coffee cups saying the contents are hot enough to cause injury, maybe, just maybe, you should pay attention to the warnings on their warships, too. But what do I know? I'm just the guy who watched a primitive species teach the galaxy's most notorious pirates a very, very expensive lesson. A lesson that, I'm happy to report, has been thoroughly learned. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with the Human Diplomatic Corps. They're serving tea. And I've learned to read the warning labels very, very carefully.